And we're
Mhm.
back. Welcome to the second Sabre Day presentation hosted by the Clyde Sukeforth chapter. I'm Bruce McClure, the chapter chair, and we always hold our meetings in conjunction with the Gardner Waterman chapter of Sabre in Vermont, Dr. Clayton Truder, chair. And oh boy, this is going to be a good one, folks. Let's get right to it. According to baseball statistics and 5 Hall of Fame inductions, Turkey Stearnes is one of the all-time greats, yet many people have never heard his name. In her book entitled Hall of Fame DNA, The Legacy of Norman Turkey Stearnes, Vanessa Ivy Rose gives a play-by-play to inform and inspire audiences. During this presentation, she'll detail what makes her grandfather an unforgettable legend, both on and off the field. Vanessa Ivy Rose is an author, storyteller, and educator from the Metro Detroit area. In honor of her grandfather's baseball legacy, she hosted the podcast Reclaimed the Forgotten League and has been interviewed by various newspapers, podcasts, and was featured on Fox Sports Detroit's Inside the Tigers Stars Forever. Vanessa also creates and hosts webinars and has spoken at several baseball conferences, including the Detroit Negro Leagues Baseball Centennial and Women in Baseball. And she is here today with one of Sabre Day's most highly anticipated presentations, Vanessa Ivy Rose. Welcome to Northern New England, my friend. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much for having me. Love the intro. And, it's a blessing to be here. I know if my grandmother and grandfather were here, they would say that I need to tell you all thanks for being here and that we love you. So thanks for having me.
I am stepping out of the way. It is all yours, my friend. You go get them.
All right. All right. Let me share here. So this is my book, Hall of Fame DNA, The Legacy of Norman Turkey Stearnes. And as I said before, I want to welcome you all and thank you so much for being here. I know your time is precious and I want to honor that. But it's always great to talk baseball with baseball folks. So, who is Turkey Stearnes? I know you all probably know a little bit about him or maybe a lot about him, depending upon your baseball background. But he's a 5-time Hall of Famer. As of July 20th, 2024, he went to the Michigan Baseball Hall of Fame. So that was our most recent celebration. He also is in Cooperstown, of course. He's from Nashville, Tennessee. So he's in the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. He's also in the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame and the Afro-American Sports Hall of Fame as well. 6 feet, 168 pounds. Grandpa Turkey batted over 314 of 19 seasons, which I like to brag about because I just think that's incredible. I wish I could have seen him play in person or at least some type of footage of him playing because he was an incredible player. But of course, we don't have that footage of him playing, which is such a shame for all of baseball. He obviously batted over 403 different seasons. He captured 7 home run titles. He played in 5 East-West All-Star games, including the first one at Comiskey. And he was a top vote getter for outfielders and drove in the first run of that game. We love Josh Gibson. Josh Gibson is part of our Negro Leagues Family Alliance, and that's another group that I'm a part of. I'm the VP of communication there. And Josh Gibson, as we know, hit over 800 home runs. But if you look at the baseball reference stats, Grandpa Turkey actually hit 201 home runs, which is officially the most in Negro Leagues history. And my grandfather is, he was a family man. I did not get to meet him because I was born in 1983 and he passed away in 1979. But my siblings, I have 3 siblings who met him, of course, and sat on his lap. And they said that, he would take them to go get potato chips and ice cream. And that he was just a loving grandfather. So I love hearing those family stories. My mother and my aunt are still living. They are his daughters. And so they share and spread his legacy and advocate for him as well. And they've shared many, many stories about him being a family man too, as well. And then also my grandmother, who I'll talk about in a little bit, told me legendary stories about Grandpa Turkey, including the fact that he was a dedicated Tigers fan. So he spent so much time at Tiger Stadium as a fan, even though he was never afforded the opportunity to play for that team. He would take the Linwood bus down to the stadium for 10 cents, and he would watch the games and cheer them on. He had high expectations, though. My grandmother said that he would come home early sometimes from the game, and if he came home early, that must have meant that the Tigers were losing, and he was very competitive and upset about them not playing well, so he would sometimes leave the game early. I do want to talk to you about why I wrote this book. I'm an educator. I teach English for high school students, and writers write. I share stories about all of these incredible legends who've written really incredible literature. And I've started thinking, why am I not sharing this incredible story that I have right within my family? So that was one of the main inspirations for the book. I obviously wanted to honor the 3,000 Negro Leaguers who've had their voices silenced. And I also want to help future generations learn about Black history being American history and just this hidden piece of incredible baseball. Many people who love baseball have no idea who Grandpa Turkey is. I mentioned that he always would go to the Tiger games down at Tiger Stadium. And I now live at Comerica Park. That's my home away from home. So I can relate to that. And when I've been there, many times people have no idea who Grandpa Turkey is. I mean, this is a picture of me standing outside the Comerica Park's stadium, and Grandpa's amazing plaque is on the outside of the stadium beyond center field, the position that he played. And I see people walking by all the time, hearing their conversations. They have no idea who he is. One person even asked me one time, I had a Turkey Stearnes hat on that said Turkey Stearnes on the front, or on the back, I'm sorry. And I had turned it backwards. And somebody said, Turkey Stearnes, what's a Turkey Stearnes? Right? And so I was like, wow, he doesn't even know Turkey Stearnes is a person. And this is someone inside of Comerica that probably comes to tons of games and knows all about the Tigers, and of course would know Miguel Cabrera, would know Ty Cobb, would know Curtis Granderson, would know Al Kaline, but has no clue who Turkey Stearnes is, or that Turkey Stearnes is even a person or a legendary baseball player. So that was definitely another reason why I wanted to write the book, to help inform people. But mainly, I really wanted to have a conversation with Grandpa Turkey. As I mentioned, I did not have the opportunity to talk with him, to meet him, to ask him so many questions. I'm a huge sports person myself, and I actually played college basketball. So I, have that athletic gene that's been passed down to me. I've been a coach too as well for many years, and I had so many questions for Grandpa Turkey and quite a few comments. But I said, you know what, I can write these questions and comments in the form of a book. And this is basically my love letter to Grandpa Turkey, and also getting him caught up on all of the great things that have happened since 1979 when he passed away. Before I move on, real quick, shout out to my grandmother, obviously, with this incredible picture. She also is one of the main reasons why I wrote this book, and I dedicated the book to my grandmother, Grandma Nettie. She shared so many stories with me about Grandpa Turkey. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2015, but she lived a long life, lived to the age of 95. And she's the one who introduced me to his legacy, and I remember being 7 years old, sitting on her living room floor and watching the Detroit Tigers play, and hearing her, tell me all these great stories about baseball, but also about how my grandfather was a part of that big legacy. So this book is definitely for her. My grandfather supplemented his income by working at the Walter Briggs factory. And there's a picture of him there, and also a picture from the book We Are the Ship, which, if you haven't gotten a chance to get around to it, it has some fantastic illustrations of the Negro Leagues players. And, they were able to bring my grandfather to life there. I live for these photos. I live for this artwork because we don't have that many family photos or that many photos of Grandpa Turkey playing baseball. So all the great artists who brought him to life have helped me, put together the puzzle of my grandfather and who he was and what he looked like and what he did on the field and also sometimes off the field. But he worked at Walter Briggs factory, loading painted cars into the dryer. And I always ask people, think about the fact that a professional athlete is working what some would consider a regular job, right? That's unthinkable today. I can't imagine LeBron James being a mailman. I can't imagine Miguel Cabrera, working at working as a construction worker or something, right? But Grandpa Turkey was playing baseball and working at Walter Briggs factory at the exact same time. And Walter Briggs owned the Detroit Tigers. So he could have just put him onto the field. He could have given him this opportunity. He was right there in front of him, but he couldn't see him, right? Because he had this mindset that, Black people were not human. Not only not able to play baseball for him, but not human, because he used a slogan called no jigs with Briggs, right? No jigaboos with Briggs. And so that racial slur was well known, not just throughout the ball club, but in the community. And that's really the main reason, one of the main reasons my grandfather was not able to play for the team that he loved. And, I always tell people, just because you have two eyes does not mean you have vision. Just because you have two eyes does not mean you have vision. So looking at Walter Briggs, wow, if he could have opened his heart, if he could have opened his mind to who Grandpa Turkey really was, and if he could have really seen him for the man that he was, he could have played for the Tigers. So, this invisibility is something that my grandfather had to play against, right? As a baseball player and also as a human being. So Grandpa Turkey also worked in the Ford Foundry for 30 years later on, after his career was over. And he only missed one day because he was sick. So you can kind of see the type of character that he had. And also, when I asked my grandma many, many times, how did Grandpa feel about racism? How did he feel about the fact that he was not able to step out onto the field and play with people that he obviously knew he could hang with, right? And she said he would always just say, that's just the way things are. That's just the way things were. And I could not fathom why he would say that. I'm like, it's not really just the way things were, right? It's the way things were designed. And he definitely deserved to be on the field with them. So wouldn't he be upset? Wouldn't he, be passionate about that? And she said he was never bitter. He just didn't have a bitter bone in his body. And he was focused on who he was and what he could do and what he could control. And as I've gotten older and, started to reflect upon this, I'm like, you know what? Grandpa knew who he was and wasn't looking for external validation. And that's something that I carry with me too as well. I do want to read an excerpt, a short excerpt for you, because I think this is a really important part of my book. I had the opportunity to listen to a recording of my grandfather's voice from an interview with a guy named Joe LaPointe, who's now become a family friend. He's a journalist that's worked for Detroit and also for the New York Times. And he loves baseball. He obviously loves my grandfather, and preserved this recording from 1978 when they went to the Negro Leagues reunion in Greenup, Kentucky. And I never thought I would have an opportunity to hear this. I never even knew this tape existed. And it was remastered and brought to me by another great baseball advocate and family friend that works for the Hamtramck Stadium grounds crew, and also is a great writer, Dave Mesri. And he's like, I think you definitely want to hear this. And boy, oh boy, was he right. Right. So this excerpt is from part of the book where I decided I wanted to share with the audience listening to the interview for the first time. There you were, speaking in my headphones. It's not how I imagined it, of course. I thought the first words I would hear you speak would pertain to baseball, but instead, they focused upon the mistaken identity of a Coca-Cola. I loved it. It was perfect. You were perfect. You had the voice of a gentle, easygoing 78-year-old man. Smooth and calm, each word uttered seemed to be carefully yet organically placed. Your voice embodied the nostalgia of the olden days, and you spoke as if you were holding a small but silent piece of peppermint candy in your mouth. I could hear the southernness in your phrasing, but it didn't take up more space than the actual sentiments being conveyed. The more you shared, I was so focused on your words that I hadn't noticed the tears streaming down my face. After about 20 After about 20 minutes of listening, I was forced to pause the recording. I was becoming aware of the emotions running through my body faster than you had rounded the bases for 19 seasons. As the tears continued to flow, I cupped my hands over both eyes, massively overwhelmed, abundantly grateful, and superbly fulfilled. I began to sob. Faith runs deep in my family, and I had witnessed answered prayers many times before. But this moment felt uniquely designed just for me. There was something distinctively special about receiving a gift I had not specifically asked for, but so desperately needed. It was food to my soul and a reminder that even if an opportunity seems impossible or lost, love always finds its way home. So this is just, my way of sharing, and you can tell that the voice that I'm using is I'm directly speaking to my grandfather. I use that voice throughout the whole text because, as I mentioned, it was really important to me to talk to him. And of course, I'm inviting other people in to be a part of that conversation and to learn from it and learn who he was and what he was about. But I have a lot that I wanted to say to him, and hearing his voice for the first time, it shook me. It was a transformational moment. It was a gift, like as I mentioned, that I had never asked for, that I didn't even know was possible. But not having any footage of him playing, not having the opportunity to speak with him, this was such a gift to me, and it's something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And it's a very, very important part of the book. Many people have shared that this hit them. This was emotional for them too, as well, as they were learning about my grandfather's story, and that they've been thinking about their family tree and their grandparents and their great grandparents as they've read through the book, because it was sort of a mirror for them and not just a window where they're learning about turkey Stearnes in the Negro Leagues. There's many celebrations that are happening right now, and one of the biggest ones is the Negro Leagues weekend that Comerica Park does, and that's why I'm wearing this jersey. I know Rachel has the jersey on too, and we wear this a lot around here because we're so proud of it. They gave away this jersey to 15,000 fans, and it has Grandpa Turkey's number on the back. It has a patch on the side honoring the centennial anniversary, which they recognized as 1923 and 2023, 100-year celebration of Grandpa Turkey's career. He actually started his career before 1923. So I always like to tell people that because I know they care a lot about the dates and the stats and the facts and just, researching everything in the archives. This year, the Negro Leagues weekend is going to take place on June 13th through the 15th. And my mom and my aunt are professional singers, Turkey's daughters. So they sing the national anthem every year on the Friday. On Saturday, they sing the Black national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. So it's a very special weekend for our family. And they also gave away this Detroit Stars hat last year. So I'm very, very excited to see what the giveaway will be this year. Also, we're playing the Cincinnati Reds. So if there's any Ellie De La Cruz fans in the house, shout out to him, of course. But if you come to Detroit for this, definitely let me know. I would love to meet you. I would love to talk with you. And I would love to share some baseball stories. I always come back to who is Turkey Stearnes as get towards the end of this presentation, because I want to make sure that people know what's happened beyond his posthumous induction to Cooperstown in the year 2000. But also, this happened after I wrote the book, which was amazing in one way and sad for me in another way, because I wanted to share this great, accomplishment and milestone. Obviously, before the book was released, the Negro League stats were not a part of Major League Baseball. And so in 2020, the commissioner said that the Negro League should be honored within Major League Baseball. They obviously are a huge part of the story of baseball, and their statistics deserve to be included within the official record. And last year, this became real. So it still blows my mind that I can pull up on my phone at any time Grandpa's stats and see that he is now 6th all-time in batting average, 6th all-time in slugging, and 9th in OPS. This celebration, not just for our family, but also for the game of baseball, I think is so important to have that inclusion and to make sure people know just how great those Negro Leagues players were and still, are in many ways, but I like to say my grandfather's bat is still talking. He's not here to speak for himself. He's not here to give this presentation, which I'm sure he wouldn't want to do anyway, because he was very introverted, very shy, did not talk much at all. Sometimes, it's like pulling teeth to get him to talk about himself and his career. And he did not brag at all, which he had lots to brag about. But I think in many ways, maybe that's why I'm here now, in this generation, because I said, why would I not have the opportunity to meet my grandfather? I'm the most athletic person in my family. I'm the one that played college basketball. I'm the one that watches ESPN faithfully and goes to all these games. It seemed like a cruel twist of fate that I was not able to meet my grandfather. For quite a while, I felt that way. And now I actually don't feel that way, because I recognize, maybe I'm here in this time to be a voice for him. Maybe I'm here in this time to share this information as someone who cares about education and sports and uplifting the community. And I don't take that lightly. So I'm really happy to see his name up there with all of these great Negro Leagues greats. And then also, especially like Ty Cobb having that Detroit connection. Cindy Cobb is Ty Cobb's granddaughter. She's become a great friend of our family. And it's really cool to, connect with her and talk with her about her grandfather's legacy and my grandfather's legacy and how those two things are connected. And she said something really special. She said that, she envisions Turkey and Ty in the outfield together. And, obviously that wasn't able to happen. But we still hold that near and dear to our hearts that, hey, maybe that wasn't able to happen in the past, but they're together now, because look at this list. Right? Satchel Paige also mentioned that, Grandpa Turkey was one of the greatest hitters we ever had. He was as good as anybody who ever played ball. I think Satchel Paige and Cool Papa Bell and Buck O'Neill and so many others, keeping my grandfather's name alive is the reason why he's in 5 Halls of Fame today. It's the reason why these statistics are in the official record, because they chose not to forget him, and they chose to continue to advocate for him and to make sure people knew who he was. And if it weren't for them, who knows? So it's really important to share this story out. I would encourage all of you to continue to share, the stories of those who've had their voices silenced in baseball and beyond, because it's so essential to uplift one another and to make sure that we have that representation and also that unity. Baseball can bring us together. And I really love looking at these stats and seeing the names here, because it's representative of so much more than just stats. This goes well beyond baseball. One of the best opportunities that I've had has been hosting the ABC podcast Reclaimed. It's 6 episodes if you haven't listened to it. It's called The Forgotten League. Reclaimed is a series that ABC does to make sure that everyone knows about the hidden stories and, again, history that many times has been erased. So they talk about like the Tulsa race massacre. They've talked about Mamie Till, Emmett Till's mother, and they've also talked about Negro Leagues Baseball with this Reclaim the Forgotten League podcast. So I was very, very blessed, and I still feel so honored that they chose me as the host. It came about in a very interesting way. They, came to Detroit obviously to talk to Ron Schoolboy Teasley, who's a living legend. This is him here on the left, and he's 98 years old. He played for the New York Cubans. He was signed by the Brooklyn Dodgers. He was the first African-American captain for Detroit Northwestern's high school basketball team. He played baseball, was a star there as well. He's in their Hall of Fame. He won 15 championships as a coach. So I call him Coach Teasley. And he also was a teammate of my grandfather. They played together for the Toledo Cubs. And that was the end of my grandfather's career. But Coach Teasley said that my grandpa was still super fast, like lightning speed at 40 years old, could score from first base off of a single. That's what he told me. So I'm like, the man was there. He knows. He's sharp as a tack. You has so many great stories. Some of the stories that he shared with me are in the Reclaimed podcast. And I'm so happy that we were able to talk to him and that he, sat down with me and told me everything that he remembers, which is a lot. So if you get a chance to listen to the podcast, I would highly recommend it, not just because I'm the host, but because if you love baseball, you will love Reclaim. It was an opportunity for me to walk down memory lane, and I was very emotional about the whole process of recording and digging through the archives and having new things sent to me, because new things are sent to me all the time from historians and people who are scouring newspapers and people who are creating artwork. I learned so much more about my grandfather's stats. It just what his greatness really entailed. But we also got to revisit some really cool memories of like going to Cooperstown. So my mom and I are there. I know it's not Thursday, but that's a throwback picture for sure right there with Buck O'Neill. And Buck O'Neill was hosting us, really. He was walking us around, having us meet all the ball players, showing us, what Cooperstown was all about, and, just telling us stories about my grandfather's legacy. So what a treat that was. My grandmother fit right in. She was the one who gave the speech on behalf of my grandfather. And it was pretty legendary. It was a legendary speech, I would say that. She used a little comedy and she was herself. And I talk about that in the book too, as well. But she looked like she belonged up there. It really was an incredible moment. I was only 16 years old at the time when we went to Cooperstown. And like I said, I was still learning about what this great legacy entailed. I have such a deeper appreciation for that trip now that I'm in my 40s. And it was just fantastic. So there's so many things about that too within the Reclaim podcast. Like I said, 6 episodes. You get a chance to check it out. Definitely let me know what you thought of it. And at this time, I just wanted to say thank you again for having me here. My grandfather's story definitely covers so many things. There's so many things I could tell you about him. I know someone during this Q&A is going to ask how he got the nickname Turkey, but maybe everyone here knows already, so I won't tell you unless you really want to know. But there's a lot of things I could say about Grandpa. A lot of it is in the book, obviously, and also in the podcast. But, he was a 5-tool player, incredible stats, extremely fast in center field. They said, him and Cool Papa Bell, if they were in a race, I'm not sure who would win. Cool Papa Bell might edge him out, is what I've heard, but they would say it would definitely be close. So that lets me know just like, how incredibly fast he was. Grandpa was very quirky. He had a quirky batting stance, and he also carried his bats in a violin case. to protect them, which I know is pretty unique. And he talked to his bats too, as well, and people, Buck O'Neill has mentioned that. Ron Schoolboy Teasley has mentioned that too, as well. Many other players have said they've heard him talk to his bat. So that's one of the things that he's known for. He hit that ball in somebody's kitchen. And I said that one of my chapters in the book is actually called Somebody's Kitchen, because Grandpa hit a home run that went at least 470 feet. So people would say in the neighborhood, where'd Turkey hit that ball? In somebody's kitchen. So that's something that is stuck with me for a while. One of my favorite things to tell people. And just lastly, I would say he was a team player. Grandpa said it didn't matter how many home runs he hit if they didn't win the game. And that's my favorite quote, because I was like, you know what? A lot of players and a lot of athletes and just people in general, right, are so self-centered. The ego gets the best of us many times. So for me to hear that he could hit all these home runs, he was this outstanding player, he's in 5 Hall of Fames, to hear that he actually cared about everybody else on the team and felt like they were all just as important as he was. He said it takes 9 men to help the man with the reputation to get there and to stay there, right? So he wasn't about just taking credit for himself. He wanted to make sure that people knew, we all have value. We all need to help each other. We all need to look out for each other. And that inspires me to this day. Makes me really happy. I see a lot of hands. So, Bruce, are you going to help me?
There are a lot of hands, Vanessa. There are. Can I, let's get you back on full screen if you don't mind.
All right, cool.
All right, there she is. All right. If you've got a question for our presenter today, Vanessa Ivy Rose, go down to the bottom of the screen and hit the react button. Once you do that, you're going to hit raise hand. You do that, and we will get you in line to ask questions of our presenter today. And I've got some in the chat. I've got some hands up. I just was looking at seam heads, and I've got essentially the back of a baseball card on my screen of Turkey Stearnes' career statistics. You had mentioned, Vanessa, that Turkey has 201 home runs.
Yeah.
SABR will actually dispute that with you. They credit Turkey with 202.
Okay, let's get it. I'll take 202.
So, I mean, he's got one more. Life is, I mean, really, that's great.
I was going off Baseball Reference, but and that's the thing, right? About the Negro League stats is we keep learning more and more, and it's always an evolving story. These numbers shift a little bit with things that are coming up from the archives, and I'll take 202 though. If that's what we want to go with, I'm putting that in the I'm putting that in the presentation.
And what's fantastic about all of this in the past several years is just how many researchers have moved themselves, all the way into researching the entire history of the Negro Leagues in whatever way they possibly can in order to bluntly right the wrong of having all of this data and history erased from our game's memory.
Right.
And you're doing, frankly, God's work in getting your grandfather's name and story out there. God bless you. And I think it's a beautiful book, and I can't thank you enough for doing this. I want to get to some of the people in the chat. Doug Rubin, are you able to help me out here? You had said something in the chat, and I was hoping you would get that on camera. Doug, can you ask that question?
Sure. Let's see. Yeah, thank you for a great presentation. I think your knowledge of baseball and your work as an athlete, I think you really do share his DNA, and thank you. So my question is, I have been to the Negro League Museum in Kansas City. I recommend, obviously everyone should go to it.
Oh yeah.
Did the Ted Williams, in your opinion, was the Ted Williams induction speech, obviously New England Red Sox fan? I mean, because civil rights kind of always go, over
Hmm.
time. But Ted Williams, spoke very truthfully, very personally about, from his background about the inclusion of the great baseball players. I'm getting emotional. Satchel Paige, a lot of them were alive
Mm.
then. Do you think that was a watershed moment, or was it sort of a gradual moment, sort of to understand that, there were some great, great baseball players that were overlooked? That's it. Thank you.
I think it was pivotal, having the voice, and he had a big voice, obviously. It was highly respected. So he was an ally in many ways, right? So, you know, speaking up about what he knew and making sure that everyone knew how great the Negro Leaguers were and where they belonged, I think that help change minds, hopefully change hearts, right? As I mentioned before, cool Papa Bell, Satchel Paige talking about Turkey. I think a lot of times people will go, oh yeah, of course they would say that because they also played in the Negro Leagues, right? But we're thinking of a very different time where segregation, uh, I mean, I don't want to say too much about segregation because that's a whole nother presentation about Jim Crow segregation. And when we're thinking about the lynchings that occurred, when we're thinking about how people were not only not able to go to the same schools, but were not buried next to each other in death, right? If you were blind, there were segregated blind wards, right? Not able to play chess or checkers with each other if you were black and you were white, right? If you look at someone a certain way, that could mean death for you, right? So knowing the history of segregation in the landscape, for him to take a chance and to be bold and brave and courageous enough to speak up for the truth and what was right. I mean, definitely that had a huge impact on not just my grandfather being able to get into the Hall of Fame, but also for us to rethink who the game of baseball includes and how we can be better people, how we can be better in terms of humanity in this world.
Thank you. Well said.
Yeah, thank you
Very.
for bringing that up.
Caleb Hardwick, are you out there? You had a beautiful question on chat that I want to get on cam. You're up. Go.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks, Vanessa, so much for the conversation. This is great, and I really appreciate that you're helping just kind of keep the memory of these players like your grandfather alive. The question that I have is, how do you, as a family member of a player, feel about the way that Major League Baseball has handled the way it's recognized Negro League players in recent years, especially given that for a very long time, MLB didn't really put a lot of effort into recognizing these players. But now that some people are showing interest, MLB is showing interest, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I feel like it was a long time coming. And to be honest, we didn't know if it would ever happen. And when he made the announcement, when I'm talking about the commissioner in 2020, obviously a lot of things were happening in 2020 that warranted a conversation about race, right? And so every company, every organization, not just within sports, was thinking about how they were going to make sure that people knew that they were not racist, right? So, we were looking at Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, right? Every organization was thinking about that. So the commissioner making that announcement, we were like, uh-oh, is this a performative thing? Is this a transactional thing? And will this actually truly happen? In 2024, it did happen, but in between 2020 and 2024, there were a lot of question marks about, will this ever really happen? Because that's the story of the Black community. We've been waiting for things for a long time, right, that haven't come or that sometimes never come, or promises have been made that have not been fulfilled, looking at things historically. So it was a waiting game. I'm excited about the statistics being in MLB. That's incredible. It's amazing. But there's more work to do. There's Negro Leaguers that are not in the Hall of Fame that should be. There's definitely an issue with representation of Black players within the game of baseball. And so it's, a much longer conversation, but we're very grateful we're very happy. Like I said, I live at Comerica, so I'm definitely excited about Negro Leagues finally being a part of the conversation. I do wish that my grandfather, like I said, was here to get his flowers. I love it that Coach, Ron Schoolboy Teasley is 98 and he's able to get his flowers, and we give him his flowers as much as possible. But I do think about the many others, thousands of others that also deserve to be a part of these incredible celebrations.
Caleb, thank you very much for doing that on camera for us. Let's go to Jeff Cohen. Jeff, unmute. You're up, man.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you, Vanessa, for that presentation. It was fantastic. I'm going to assume something here. I'm pretty sure you must have talked to Bob Kendrick of the Negro Leagues Museum. Tell us some of the stories he told you about your grandfather, because I know Bob is such a well-spoken storyteller. He's one of my favorite people to speak to. So if you can do that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to let you down. I actually have never really had a sit-down conversation with Bob Kendrick about Grandpa Turkey. I have heard his stories about him, and I appreciate what he does. And like you said, he's a great storyteller, especially looking at the game. If anybody's a gamer in here, MLB The Show. There's a whole segment now with Negro League storylines being included within the video game, which I'm a big gamer. I love that. I have my PlayStation 5. I'm probably going to get on that after we get off this call, but his stories on there are unbelievable. And even if you're not a gamer, if you go to YouTube, you can still see, his stories about the Negro Leagues players. Grandpa Turkey's not on there as of right now, but there's many, many, many players who are on there that are fantastic, that I've learned a lot about myself. Also, his social media presence is great. I know that he shared a lot of stories on his podcast too, as well. He's spoken with my aunt on his podcast. And so I'm looking forward to that sit down conversation with Bob. I know it's coming. So one day soon, we'll have that convo, and then I'll report back to you.
Okay. Have you ever been to the Negro Leagues Museum in Kansas City?
Shockingly, I have not, and I know I need to get there before they renovate it.
Well, they're building a new museum there, a new building.
Right, the brand new one is coming, and one thing though, I have talked to Bob about Grandpa Turkey's artifacts and the exhibit of him there, because I know it's very small, because I know he didn't have that much there. He's not in the setup where they have the statues of the players on the ball field on the diamond. And Grandpa definitely belongs there. So hopefully in the new one, we can get some more turkey love there. But I know he loves Grandpa Turkey. He has always great things to say about him.
And if there's any incentive, it's free for the month of February. So everybody should go to that Negro League Museum. It's a life-changing event. Thank you very much, Vanessa.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Jeff, I appreciate you. Let's go to Donna Muscarella. Donna, how you doing?
I'm well.
Go get him.
Hi, Vanessa. How are you?
Hey, Donna. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for doing this and for helping to put a face to the names of all these players. And to that end, I'm hoping it's an organization with which I am familiar, but I'm not sure that everybody else is. I'm hoping you could talk a bit more about the Negro Leagues Family Alliance, please.
Yeah, sure. So we have so many great families in the Negro Leagues Family Alliance, and our website is NLFA.com. Well, no, I'm sorry. No, it's Negro Leagues
Family Alliance.com.
Yes, with an S on leagues. So don't forget the S. So Negro Leagues Family Alliance.com. But our president is Sean Gibson. He's the great grandson of Josh Gibson. We have representation from Buck Leonard's family, the Turkey Stearnes family, obviously, Ron Schoolboy Teasley's family, Ted Double Duty Radcliffe's family, which, fun fact, Ted Double Duty Radcliffe is my grandma Nettie's uncle. So we actually have two Negro League stars in our family, which is just wild to think about. And he's responsible for introducing Grandma Nettie and Grandpa Turkey. It's in the book. Also, we have Doug Foster, who is related to Rube Foster. And we also have
Leon Day's family, I think.
We don't have Leon Day's family. We have Pete Hill's family. And also our two new families, or two of the newest families. Satchel Page's family is representing our group, and Horatio Martinez. I know I'm probably forgetting two newer members, but check out our website. They'll be going there. The membership renews in, or our newer members can join in March. So their families will be represented there. But make a long story short, the Family Alliance is about preserving and advocating for the Negro Leagues players, right? And protecting the legacies of those players too, as well. So, we're hoping to do many events last year. Many members from the organization did go down to Rickwood for the game. I was not there, but most of the Family Alliance was there, and it was an incredible event for us. This year, we're hoping to do an event in Atlanta for the All-Star game, and we have a multitude of events that we do, so we'll be sharing those out on our website and hopefully social media soon too as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for asking.
Dan Sichalski, you are up, my friend. How you doing, Dan?
Good, thanks. How is everybody?
Great.
Vanessa, I've been aware of your book, but I have not read it yet, so I'm going to fix that later today. But
I appreciate it.
I do want to ask about the nickname, because I was using my other screen over here, and I was looking to see. I'm in northern New Jersey, not far from Hinchliffe Stadium.
Nice.
And I've done a lot of research on that ballpark too. But so I was looking to see if Turkey had played in New Jersey at all. And one thing that came up is this 1929 New Pittsburgh Courier article that refers to him as Turkey Breast Stearnes, which is I had not heard of it. Had
Me
you come
either.
across it at all?
There we go. Yeah, I haven't. You got to send it to me. I haven't seen that one yet, but I'm seeing a lot of new stuff. Trust me. So, some people call him the Gobbler too, as well. So that Turkey nickname definitely, has been sticking. And unfortunately, people are starting to think that Grandpa's first name is Turkey. And I'm like, no, that's not on his birth certificate, right? It's Norman Thomas Stearnes. Turkey is the nickname. But if you go on Twitter or X now, people are like, Turkey, what a name. And then I'm just like, oh my gosh. But he received his, you know it. You already know.
Oh boy.
The internet, right?
Right.
But Grandpa, there's two stories about his name. So the nickname. He said that when he was a child, he had a pot belly, and that's why he was called Turkey, right? But when he started playing baseball, people said that he ran the bases flapping his arms and stuck his chest out. So that's what a lot of baseball people say. I've heard some baseball people also reference that he had a long neck. And so this story just keeps getting added to by the day and by the minute. But I always say, I go with what Grandpa said, you got to go straight to the source, right? So pot belly as a kid.
Nice. Yeah, I'll clip this. We'll get it over to you.
Thank you. Turkey
Caleb
breast.
asks, does your family call him Turkey?
Yes.
Okay.
So, well, my grandmother would call him Turkey or Turk. She never, ever said Norman. She always referred to him as Turk and Turkey. And so did everyone else. So, it definitely stuck. It has a little more flavor than Norman, right? But yeah, everyone called him Turkey. So I even say Grandpa Turkey all the time.
I have to say that the nickname Double Duty always got a chuckle out of me, just because I can see him running from here and there because he did so much on the field, and
Yeah.
you just see that freneticism around him. I don't know why. It just gave me a a chuckle every time I heard it. Donna Muscarella says nicknames are a lost art. No kidding.
For sure.
Vanessa, tell them how to get the book, would you?
Yeah, sure. So it's available on Amazon. If you just type in Hall of Fame DNA, the legacy of Norman Turkey Stearnes. I know it's the longest title ever. It will come up. But you also could go to my website, hofdna.com, and it will direct you to everything I mentioned today. The book itself, the podcast. I'm sure Rachel is throwing stuff in the
She's throwing it all in the chat right now. You bet she's on it.
That's my handler right there.
There you go, Rachel. Get yourself on camera. There you go. Say hi, Rachel.
So
she's only waving. She doesn't want to be on the video today. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Vanessa.
No, you're right. She hides in the background, but I tell you what, man, when we look at an all-star team, Rachel is fantastic with, web design and making sure that, I get everything out on social media that needs to be there. And so if you go to the website that she created, it's fantastic. It'll lead you to everything I talked about today. It'll tell you all my social media accounts so that you can, if you're on Instagram, Hall of Fame DNA, if you're on Twitter, X, you can get to it too as well. And the podcast links are there too. Other videos, other things that I've written are there as well too. So she's been a big help. And fun fact, she did design the patch on this Centennial jersey with her incredible talent that she has. So she's been awesome in helping to spread the word about Grandpa Turkey.
Dan just put in the chat that link that he was talking about. I copied it and I'll email it over to you if you didn't get it. So
thank you, Dan.
Oh man, this has been fantastic. Holy cow. All right, everybody. It's time for the 7th inning stretch. I want you all to head to the concession stands for a little while. Let's relax. Let's make sure we're back here for 7 o'clock Eastern, where we're going to have our final presentation of the day for you. Esteemed SABR member Donna Halper will be with us to give her talk on pioneering women in baseball. If you need a sign-up link, it's in the chapter meeting booklet distributed each Monday and also available at sabr.org/SABR Day. Finally, if you're a baseball fan watching on YouTube and you like what you see, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to be alerted to each of our weekly uploads. And if you're not yet a member, you need to join the Society for American Baseball Research, the premier baseball community. Offering an amazing baseball buffet of options to explore your fandom, SABR boasts more than 35 different research communities, over 80 regional chapters, and innumerable opportunities to connect with baseball minds across the world. For more information, go to sabr.org/join today. Vanessa Ivy Rose, you are fantastic. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Bruce. Thank you so much to everybody for being here. Thank you for having your heart and your mind open to this. And I know my grandparents appreciate it. So thank you.
It is our absolute pleasure, my friend. We'll see you very soon, and we'll see everybody back here tonight at 7. Talk to you later.
Thank you all. Thank you.